Cedric, you were hinting at it, showing your hand a little bit. You want to talk about the Reds, and I don't blame you. You scooped up the Cincinnati Reds for your farm feature. Give us the whole rundown on what Cincy's got going on in 2026.
All right, so with my farm features, I really love starting off with just a couple of phrases that or overview the system. So one thing with Cincinnati that kind of stands out, young. It's very youthful, and there's going to be a lot of points on that later. Injury luck. There's been some ups and downs on that front, especially with some of the top prospects in the farm. Then you continue that with athletic and athleticism. You got some players that are really exciting. They're very young, but extremely athletic, and you'll see that within their grading. But we'll start with some of the guys that are graduating from prospect status soon. You're going to see a shakeup here because the Reds, they just graduated pretty much a huge class that's going to be going up. So right now you got guys like Sal Stewart, already has debuted in the majors. Rhett Lowder already has debuted in the majors. Chase Petty, Edwin Arroyo, these are guys where they have some experience. They've gotten their feet wet, cup of coffee a little bit in the majors, and you'd expect them, even if they are rotating between AAA Louisville or in the majors, they're going to be around the system and they will be graduating very, very soon. I'd also recap it that there's kind of a lot of lottery tickets in this farm system, which makes sense because the Reds, like I said, have graduated a ton, but they've also drafted a ton. And when you look from this farm system from top to bottom, you don't see a lot of guys in double A and triple A in the system. It seems like you have guys that have either already debuted or they are in rookie ball or single A. There's not really a ton in that middle class. So once you kind of get that last group of talent matriculated, it may be a while before the Reds can depend on another prospect. So keep that in mind. That's one of the things that's, comes with the system and comes with the turnover of doing what they did in 2022 after, getting rid of a lot of those key pieces with their 2022 team, such as Sonny Gray, Eugenio Suarez, who had an amazing season with the Mariners recently, and Diamondbacks too after the trade. Diamondbacks to the Mariners trade, rather. And then, Sonny Gray, Castellanos, all those guys traded. There was a lot of pressure on Kroll, a lot of pressure on the Reds to, make some moves or, we need to produce if you're going all young core. And the young guys are here. They're here. They made a playoff, already have a playoff berth. They have playoff experience. And one of those guys that's here, we'll start with the top prospect in the system. It's Sal Stewart, versatile defensive piece for the Reds. You can play him at first. You can play him at second. You can play him at third.
Awesome.
Three really good to have in your infield. MLB ready as well too. That is huge. And he's one of those guys where I was talking about that 2022 team that was one of the better Reds teams of the last few years, had a good core, but they moved on from a lot of those guys. But some of the fruits of that labor of Castellanos leaving to Philly was that they got a comp pick and that became Sal Stewart. So I'm excited for him. The big thing with Sal when it came to his minor league numbers was not striking out. This man was phenomenal at keeping the strikeout numbers down and drawing a lot of walks. He had 138 walks to 139 strikeouts between all of his minor league levels last season. Incredible. Incredible. He picks his pitches very well, has a lot of plate discipline. That's something that not a lot of prospects have. It's very rare. So that's something that can be key for the Reds. If you need a guy to put something in play, he's going to be able to make it happen. Now, his early start in Major League, he actually has dealt with the opposite, where he has not drawn any walks and he has struck out 15 times. But it's an early sample size. He's getting used to Major League pitching. It's a whole different animal from AAA. When it comes to the hitting, compared to hitting in AAA, compared to hitting in minor league baseball, I feel like there's not as big of a jump in the hitters. Or should I say AAA and Major League Baseball, not as big of a separation in terms of the hitting talent, but there's a massive jump off in terms of the pitching talent.
Oh, yeah.
So that can make it harder sometimes when it comes to hitting to adjust. So I'm interested to see how he does at adjusting at that. But again, that's something that has to excite the Reds. And then also his youth. He's 21 years old still and is already getting time in the majors. So again, that youth dynamic, one of the top key words about the Reds farm, that's something that really reigns true with Sal. But before I get to the second one, any thoughts so far, Corey?
Yeah, there's like two guys that come to mind when you talk about having numbers like Sal's in the minors. Granted, I'm translating them to the majors. Juan Soto and one of the biggest tickets on the market right now, and Kyle Tucker, they do what Sal Stewart, if he can translate into the majors, is doing, right? And that is walking as much as you strike out. You can count on one hand the amount of guys who are walking as much as they strike out at Major League Baseball. So A, that means it's extremely difficult. But B, it means you know who Juan Soto and Kyle Tucker are. Those are expensive names. Sal Stewart's going to make some money if he can translate that over and be a guy who hits mid to high 200s, but most importantly, his on-base percentage is near that 400 mark. That's where you make your money. That's where you become someone that a franchise feels they can build around. And also, usually, you don't find a guy who all the way up in the majors can play first, second, or third unless your manager is pushing it on guys and has the philosophy of versatility is the best ability. The fact that Sal Stewart is ready-made and brings that aspect up with him, I'm excited to see him get a full crack at it this year. We'll just put it that way.
Yeah, me too. He's going to be exciting to watch. That's, again, the best part about this farm with a lot of guys that are major league ready is that usually we're talking about guys that you're going to have to wait a while to see. There's a couple guys in this red system that you don't have to wait at all. You're going to be able to see them once you turn on the TV for spring training coming up here in March. So, again, really exciting. Next guy is a very important prospect. He has a long way to go, but I think he is one of the more important prospects for the Reds, and it's Alfredo Duno. He is the lone catching prospect in the top 30 for the Reds, and there really is nobody ahead of him in the system that you're going to expect to be over him. So essentially, as he rises, he's expected to be that next catcher. Right now, you're sitting with Tyler Stevenson, Jose Trevino as a nice veteran presence too for the Reds in terms of their catchers. But in terms of the young guns, the guy that can really be developed, it's going to be Duno. Age 19 years old, expected to make that debut in 2028. We talked about Ethan Salas a little bit earlier. Back in 2023, there was a list that MLB Pipeline did of the top 50 international prospects. And on that list, one of 5 catchers on it alongside Ethan Salas is Alfredo Duno. Just talking about how big of a name he is if you're on a list with a guy like Salas. Big thing for him, here's where the injury concerns is the first bit of it, which is unfortunate, but that was something that really plagued Duno early on. His 2023 year had to deal with injuries, wasn't able to play that full season. And then 2024, this one hurt the most, broken ribs, which sounds terrible. That cut down his season in the Florida League with low A Daytona. So dealing with those injuries was brutal, but in 2025, he proved, hey, I can stay healthy a full season. I can put it together, and he made 113 starts for his team, back 287 at the age of 19. So not only was he able to sustain that health throughout the year, but he carried that into the Arizona Fall League as well, and he produced. So you really want to think about who's going to be those clutch players that can make a big hit when you need to. Well, in the Arizona Fall League semifinals, a kind of playoff atmosphere, not as much as an MLB playoff atmosphere, but still it's nice to see that, especially at that level with only top prospects really from all these different teams and at many different levels. Because in Arizona Fall League, keep in mind, you have prospects that are from AAA, AA, high A, single A, and you have all these different age ranges. Duno hit not 1, not 2, but 3 home runs in a semifinal game. Impressive. That's big. That's what you want. A big time bat that can show up in the clutch. He's a very solidly built guy, 6'2", 210. And whenever you're 19 years old with those types of numbers, you know you're going to continue hitting that weight program. You're going to continue to grow, continue to get a good build. So again, he's really building himself up well. He's very strong-armed, like any type of high-ranked catching prospect. His arm tool is going to be really big. You're going to really expect him to have that throwing arm really good. So again, I think he's going to be a very important piece for the Cincinnati Reds, a team that does not have a lot of depth when it comes to catching prospects. So Duno's expected to be the guy.
Yeah, I think the Arizona Fall League is amazing for 2 of the reasons that you just mentioned, both of which apply to Duno. A, if he gets shut down for a year, not that that's exactly what happened to him, you can still shut it down and then say, hey, let's give it a shot for a few weeks and make late October, early November our target date. And B, like you said as well, you have guys in low and high A going up against AAA, almost Major League Baseball ready talents, and then they simulate, you're not going to get the same crowds and hype, obviously, but that postseason atmosphere at the end where you might have the best AAA prospect in one system going against the Alfredo Dunos of another system in the Reds, and he comes out and just hits 3 towering shots with his team's season on the line. So I think the Arizona Fall League, even though it happens as kind of an aside, in one of the quietest times of year for baseball. It's sneakily one of the best things for this game and for guys like Duno, who he's got his whole career ahead of him. But when you show promise on that stage, it's a good sign for things to come.
Yeah, we won't be done talking about the fall league either, because exactly your point, Corey, of getting to play against guys that are at higher levels. You also get teammates that are guys that are higher levels, and that'll be the case with our number 5 prospect here for the Reds when we close out our top 5 list. Next two, I'll kind of group them together because this is what I like to call the Elly plan, to replace him after he goes and gets his big deal, because he's going to get paid, and he will get paid very well. We've not seen the Reds operate like a big market team. I highly doubt they're going to match what the Yankees or the Dodgers or whoever big market team X is going to pay for Elly De La Cruz. So they need to come up with a plan. And they got two young guys that were the best players in their state. We got Mr. Nebraska baseball in Tyson Lewis. We also got Steele Hall, who was one of the top prospects or top players to ever come out of Alabama, I believe. So again, you have two really highly ranked guys that come out of high school. They're going to start in the system. So Tyson Lewis, he was committed to Arkansas. The Reds gave him a pretty sweet offer, and you're getting into our system very early. So he's a little bit older, age 19, but I think Steele Hall, who's the other guy, who's age 18, so a little bit younger, I think Steele has a chance to be a higher floor and get to higher levels, I think, than Lewis. But I think Lewis is going to get there faster and has already put in quite a bit of work. So the big thing with both these guys, they got plus speed. They don't got Elly speed, but they got some serious speed. For Steele Hall, 70 graded speed. Goes along well with, Elly De La Cruz. He got the speed. Billy Hamilton, another fast Red as well, too. Kind of keeping into those types of traditions. But we'll go one by one to try to keep it easier. So Tyson Lewis, again, top prospect in Nebraska. He worked already through a little bit of rookie ball, now working with Daytona. That's a historic ballpark, by the way, Jackie Robinson Ballpark, home of Bethune-Cookman. I always shout out HBCU baseball programs when I can. And that's also the first place when Jackie was in AAA and training during spring training. That was his first really professional experience he got to play. Awesome. Was at the Jackie Robinson Ballpark in Daytona, especially because there were other ballparks that were refusing to break the color barrier at that time. And that was in 1946 before he eventually debuted with Brooklyn in 1947, officially breaking the color barrier. So a historic ballpark. So any Reds prospects that are in single A, it's a really cool experience to get to play at Jackie Robinson Ballpark, newly renovated. But that's where it really shined for Tyson Lewis. He's going to get that opportunity to get to play there. And I think that's going to be great because the big thing for these young prospects, and that'll be emphasized from the managers, from coaches, building up to the amount of games it takes to play in major leagues. So a lot of these players, when you're in high school ball, you may be some total 100 games, but you're not going to be playing them back to back to back to back to back to back like you are in when you're in a minor league system. So there's a buildup that's there. That's why the rookie half seasons are there. That's why Arizona Fall League is there. You're being able to build up. So I think they're really excited for Lewis to get that first 100-plus game season. And then for Steele Hall, just getting out there to get playing. And we'll see if he starts in rookie ball. I think that's what they're going to start him at. And then maybe move him over to Daytona potentially. But I think that he's going to get some opportunities to get his first experience because a lot of it was just the strength and conditioning. That was really what it was all about. But those two are really the combo of one of these guys is ideally going to replace Elly De La Cruz when his service time is up, which that's going to be in 2029. And speaking of that, who's going to debut and who's projected to debut in 2029? Steele Hall. Who's projected to debut in 2028? Tyson Lewis. So that's good. You're planning for the future. And I think that's what those two guys who are both highly picked guys, Tyson Lewis, second rounder, and then Steele Hall, a first rounder. That's what those two are going to do. And then continuing moving on, Rhett Lowder, fifth prospect. We know about him. He already has had time in the majors, and he was great in his limited time of work. He got to pitch a little bit in 2024. He was one of the top names in the minors. He had a 1.71 ERA with the Reds. He was great, but it's been injuries. And that's been really the sad thing. Last year, he had a couple different injuries. He had an injury to his wrist and lower forearm, and then he also had an oblique injury as well. So just not great there. Obviously not just for him, but for the Reds too. Wishing him to heal up. And then he almost was there. He was almost able to get back. He was doing some rehab assignments in AAA Louisville, and in a matchup against the Toledo Mud Hens, he had a setback, and that prevented him from getting back to the major league roster. So he's very close to finishing out his rehab. Terry Francona kind of stepped in, saying like, "Hey, we're going to press pause here. We know that we need him for the future, and we're going to go and give him some time to get healthy." And hey, he got to pitch in the Arizona Fall League because his rehab kind of timed him up to be ready for an Arizona Fall League. So that's where, again, it comes into play, where if you're injured for a full season, like Rhett was in 2025, he still was able to go out there and get reps. And he was working with number 2 prospect Alfredo Duno. And there's a kind of big age difference that's there, but it's nice that you're getting that experienced pitcher and a catcher getting to work well together. And I think that was a great learning experience for both of them, but mainly for Alfredo as the top catcher in the Reds organization. So really exciting that worked. But I think Rhett is a guy that's going to be dependable. If he can be healthy, he's got great stuff. And I'm really excited for where he can come in. He can either be a big part of this rotation, or he can be a big trade piece for the Reds. Like I said, is a loaded group of starting pitching, and a lot of teams are willing to trade bats to get that type of pitching in their organization. And it doesn't end there. You have Chase Petty as well, who's going to be great as well too. So it's really good. And then lastly, we'll close with the diamond in the rough here to wrap up the Reds. Cam Collier, 2024, he had the ultimate cool moment, I'd say, is going to the Rising Stars game, the best of the best in minor league baseball, and winning MVP over there at the Rangers ballpark. So really exciting for him in that way. He's kind of that lone guy that's in that AA mix. He's the only prospect in AA currently right now in the Reds top 30. So he's still working his way up. He's another guy that can be a bit versatile. He can play first, he can play third. So another guy you can kind of fit in, and he's got a great bat. I think that's his biggest thing. He's not going to be a burner on the base pass or anything like that, but I feel like his power is there. And like I said, the Reds 21st in home runs last year. If you want to build that up and you want to get those big moments, a guy like Cam Collier can give you that potential. They've been excited about him for a while, worked his time in Dayton, had a very long stint in high A Dayton, but he was able to get through it, work well, and now it's up with Double A Chattanooga in the Southern League. And once you get to Louisville, things go very quickly if he can work his way there. But I still think he has a little bit of time left to go, but he is expected to debut potentially later this year. So another exciting guy that's coming up is Cam Collier. Don't forget about him, even though I think he had a little more hype a little early on. I think he still has some hype, but it's not as much as it used to be. But that's a bit of the Reds overview there. Any final thoughts, Corey, before we move over to Pittsburgh?
Yeah, two things. I guess one with Rhett Lowder, the big phrase with him is going to be innings limit. I'm curious to see how the Reds handle him in 2026. Francona speaking forward thinking, hey, we want to make sure we protect him. We want to make sure he's healthy and ready to go. The last thing you want to do is rush somebody like that back, and it looks like they're taking the right approach. Quick nugget on Cam Collier, Chipola College legend. So he worked with one of the head coaches for a summer league team that I worked for. You and I were in the Northwoods League not too long ago. And Coach McSheffrey was his name, Sean McSheffrey. He was talking to me about Cam Collier. He was trying to find a way to get him out there on like a temp contract just so we could see somebody of that caliber. Didn't end up working out for whatever reason. I think he played in the Cape for a little bit too, actually. But he told me, he goes, this Cam dude, Corey, just watch him. Like, if you love baseball, he is a program builder. So that's high praise coming way back from 2022 before he was really on people's radar. And you mentioned, right, a little bit of drop off in the hype, but the potential's still there. You throw the cherry on top of the sundae and a Rising Stars MVP not too long ago. I've got a lot of Cam Collier stock, so I hope he keeps rising up here, and it's good to see he's one step closer to the majors.
Yep, I hope so too. A player that I'm going to be really excited about, and I'll probably put him on my AA players to watch list. Just a little preview there that he's definitely going to be one of those guys to watch over there in Chattanooga coming up. But exciting. I love seeing all the different ties. There's a lot of relationships, connections, people that have crossed paths throughout it, and you are just full of great stories, Corey. So it's always great whenever you take some time to bring back a memory that you had.
Yeah, appreciate it, man. And you did a great job on this farm feature, right? I want to say brighter days ahead for the Reds, but they're already having some pretty bright days. They broke into the postseason. I hope your bold prediction comes true, and I think it's very likely that it does if a lot of these top prospects that had just made their debut and reached graduation status end up coming to fruition, can stay healthy, and can get out there and log some games.